This week of CIST 1602, we'll look at Chapter 5, Developing the Security Program. First, we're going to look at Organizing for Security. All right, so the term, first of all, we'll start with the Information Security Program term. It's going to be defined as the entire set of activities, resources, personnel, and technologies used by an organization to manage the risk to its information assets. Now, how we structure our security, our InfoSec program, is going to be dependent on the organizational culture, the size, the security personnel budget, and the security capital budget. Now, in this, the first and most influential of these variables is the organizational culture. So if upper management staff believe that the InfoSec program is a waste of time and resources, or if it's just something that they don't feel is important, that InfoSec program will remain small and poorly supported. Depending on the size of our organization will depend on how we lay out our InfoSec program. Security in large organizations, these functions are likely to be split into groups, where in the smaller organizations, typically because we have fewer people, fewer manpower, you may have these groups split into smaller groups. Now, one recommended approach for large organizations is separate the functions as they're performed. So functions performed in non-technology business units that are outside IT areas, such as legal and training. Functions that are performed by IT groups outside the InfoSec area, such as system security administration, network security administration, centralized authentication. That would be split into one group. Groups that may perform customer service to the organization and internal partners within the InfoSec department, such as risk assessment, systems testing, incident response planning, disaster recovery planning, performance measurement, vulnerability assessment, put them in one group. And finally, those that are their jobs or functions are performed within the InfoSec department as a compliance enforcement obligation. This may include risk management, policy, compliance, and audit group. Now, medium-sized organizations, these are organizations that they may not be large enough to put a full multi-tiered approach that we did in the larger organizations, but you can still apply this, just have fewer dedicated groups and maybe have more functions applied to each group. Smaller organizations, this is where you usually have the jack of all trades, a single person, maybe head of a couple assistants in this. With the smaller organizations, you will see a lot more of the freeware or the open source software being used, as it will cut down on the cost. So looking at some components of a security programs, now this is going to have to be made to meet the needs of the organization, and it's going to be unique based on the organization's culture, size, and budget. And one of the things you can look at to determine the level that the InfoSec program needs to operate on, that's going to depend on the organization's strategic plan. So you look at the organization's plan's vision and the mission statements and determine what is needed. Some of the components, elements of a security program include things such as your policy, your risk management, personnel user issues, awareness and training, and everything else you see on the screen here as well. Next, we'll talk about staffing the security functions as we develop our security program. And we'll start by looking at some information security positions. These can be classified in one of three types. There's those that define, those that build, and those that administer. Definers provide the policies and guidelines and standards. These are the people that do the risk assessment, the consulting. You have the builders. These are the people that create and install the security systems. And then finally, you have the people who operate or administrate the security tools. Those are the administrators. Typical organization has a number of individuals with information security responsibilities. So some of these titles are maybe different. We see some difference here, the CISO, or maybe this chief security officer, security managers. security administrators or analysts, technicians, staffers and watchstanders, consultants, security officers, investigators, and help desk personnel. And we'll look at each one of these different job titles. Remember, as I said, though, that these titles may be different depending on the organization. All right, so the Chief Information Security Officer, maybe the CSO. That's usually the top InfoSec officer in the organization. They're responsible for the overall InfoSec program. This is sometimes not an executive level position, and is usually report to the Chief Information Officer. Security managers are accountable for the day-to-day operations of the InfoSec program. So they look at the objects that were given to them by the CISO, and then they resolve issues that were identified by the technicians, administrators, analysts, and staffers who they supervise. So they have it coming from both ways. They find the issues that are given to them by the people they supervise, or follow the objectives from above. Security administrators is a hybrid of a security technician and security manager. So they have both technical knowledge and managerial skills. Security analysts, they specialize in security administrators. It's a specialized security administrator. So not only do they perform the security administration duties, they must analyze and design the security solutions. Security technician, it's a qualified individual who configures the firewalls, the IDPSs, implement security software, diagnose, troubleshoot programs. This is something that's usually an entry-level position, but it does require a level of technical skills. Security staffers and watchstanders. This is something, a security staffer, somebody that performs routine administrative activities or watchstanding. A watchstander, that's the people who monitor technical security controls and systems and perform other administrative yet critical roles that support the mission of InfoSec department. This is something that also is usually an entry-level position. InfoSec consultants are typically independent experts in some aspect of InfoSec. They're usually brought into an organization when something is going to be outsourced. Sometimes you'll see the physical security and InfoSec programs put into one converged unit. So when this case happens, sometimes you have more roles added than just the pure IT roles. This includes the physical security officers and investigators. Help desk, these positions are entry level for the most part. They are crucial to InfoSec as they do help the security team identify potential problems. We'll also look at the information security professional credentials. So there are many different credentials available. Many organizations now have started to rely on recognizable professional credentials to look at the level of knowledge of the InfoSec personnel, because they know that these certifying bodies, they work hard to educate their communities on the value and qualifications that their certification represents. A couple things about certifications: they do cost money, and a lot of these are or can be expensive. It is recommended that you review, take some practice tests before you take your certification. A lot of exams require between 2 to 3 years of experience, of work experience, and have significant hands-on experience before you take the exam. Next, we'll look at implementing a security education training and awareness program, a SETA program. This is a managerial program designed to improve the security of information assets by providing targeted knowledge, skills, and guidance for organizational employees. Now, three major benefits for a set of program is they can improve employee behavior. They can inform members of the organization about where to report violations of policy. And they also enable the organization to hold employees accountable for their actions. One of the things that with an InfoSec program is security training. This involves providing members of the organization with detailed information and hands-on instructions to enable them to perform their duties securely. Three things that an InfoSec education program must address. The InfoSec education components required for all InfoSec professionals, general education requirements for all IT professionals, and then the general foundational knowledge that all business professionals must understand. This is something that security training can be customized. So you got two methods for customizing training. It can be based on your functional background, whether you're a general user, a managerial user, technical user, or you can do it based on the skill level, or it's a novice, intermediate, or advanced training. Many different ways that training can be delivered based on the budget, scheduling, needs of the organizations. This can be one-on-one training. It can be a formal class, a computer-based training, maybe a webinar, a web seminar, on-the-job training. There's many different ways. And this is something that's not always going to be based on what's best for the employee or the best that for the trainee. You know, once again, it may be something to do with the budget or scheduling needs. One of the least frequently implemented but most effective security methods is the security awareness program. This security awareness programs, they set the stage for training, but changes the organizational attitudes to realize the importance of security and the adverse consequences of the failure. It reminds the users of the procedures to be followed. Now, some of the things that could be used for security awareness includes posters, emails, reminders, memos, those type things, just to make your users aware of security awareness. It's also used to design to modify employee behavior that endangers the security of the organization's information. Now, once again, though, this is something that needs to be followed by management. If management doesn't set that example, the employees may not as well. The effective training awareness programs also make the employees accountable for their actions. So when they have in their policy, this is what you can and can't do, and this is what happens if you do those or do not do those. So as I said, some of the components of security awareness include posters and banners, emails, brochures or flyers, and all of the other information listed on your screen here. All right, project management InfoSec. Project management is going to be defined as the process of identifying and controlling the resources applied to a project, as well as measuring progress and adjusting the process as process is made towards the goal. So think of it as project management is the temporary assemblage of resources to complete a project. So you can have this set up as a couple of different ways. There are many different tools you can use for project management. Maybe it's use a work breakdown structure. So it's a way to implement a project plan by separating the projects into major tasks. Into that, you would have each identifiable task within the work breakdown. So activities and deliverables are expected. In there, you would estimate the amount of time, the amount of effort it's going to be needed for completion. And there's tools that will help you, like the automated project tool, like for example Microsoft Project. This is a program that's widely used for project management tool. Keep in mind though a couple things when you're thinking about using an automated project, that the software program cannot take the place of a skilled and experienced project manager. So in there, somebody's going to understand how to define tasks, allocate scarce resources, manage those resources that are assigned. Keep in mind also, software tool can get in the way of the work, and you want to choose a tool that you can use effectively.